Introduce some background about Saida Mashra. It is because of such incidents that overturned the calmness at the new city that we have to about what took place in a park situated at the Detroit on 10th of October 2024. We further lament over the state of affairs within the community. A grown-up man of 73 years of age, Gary Lansky, a resident of Detroit, has been arrested and charged for attempting to kill 7-year-old Saida Mashra. The assault also took place during the day at Ryan Park, where many people go for picnics with their families. Eyewitnesses recall Lansky moving towards Saida for a brief moment and then drawing out a knife and slitting her neck. The attack was rather too barbaric for any not to take notice, especially during a Sunday, while adults and children alike were at the park for enjoyment. The incident began when Saida was in the park with a family member. It was reported by a witness that she screamed for help right after she was beaten. Luckily, she was attended to by some neighbors, and first aid was given till the paramedics arrived. Saida was rushed to a nearby hospital where she received treatment to the injuries sustained, including stitches. When she got to the hospital, it was reported that she had suffered a lot from the attack, but her condition was stable, and in no time she was going to get over it. The rapid actions of the individuals who were there probably helped in making sure that her life was saved from a situation that would have turned out to be a tragedy into a moment of optimism for healing. Police arrived at the site of the incident within moments, and Lansky ran out of the park right after the attack. Once this became known, the authorities began their search, which resulted in his arrest. He was also charged with attempted homicide and aggravated assault. After learning about the incident, the police started evaluating the psychological characteristics of Lansky, which his relatives had been worried about for some time. His wife, Mrs. Linda Lansky, was already concerned about Lansky on social networks and said that it was likely he was having a mental breakdown. Kids' minds full of Anakin's slaughter, living among them, was expected to comprehend the bizarre behavior of the physically unprovoked assault on a child, which of course made all wonder what kind of person Lansky must have been at that time. The upsetting news of the assault came as a shock to many residents. The possibility that such a brutal attack could take place in a public park, a facility used by families and children, raised concerns about safety in the society. In the light of the unfortunate incident, parents were concerned as to how they would let their children play outside. There was a reduction in the feeling of security they used to experience. Children present at the time of the attack recalled the horror, shock, and trauma they felt as witnesses of the crime. They reported a certain impression of the attack that was likely to be permanent, reaffirming the stronghold violence brutality has on individuals and families. In the days after the attack, community leaders and the law enforcement agencies held various meetings regarding the security of parks. They stressed the need of having police patrols and community alertness in order to prevent such violence from occurring again. The intention was to calm the fears of people regarding their safety and lift the fears that surround the security of the public places. However, while these discussions went on, numerous members of the community indicated that they were concerned about the lack of adequate infrastructure, not only for people in a moment of crisis, but also for those with families that are going through a similar ordeal. In court, the public awaited Lansky's arraignment, and many were curious as to how the justice system would deal with such an outrageous crime. The case was highly publicized and indeed became the subject of debates and discussions on mental health and safety in society. Experts started coming forward to emphasize the importance of mental health care provisions and addressing the issues of the affected and those at risk to prevent recurrence of such events. They stressed that the framing of understanding violence should be broadened to incorporate mental health issues if measures to contain and eradicate violence are to be successful. For Saida, her recovery became emblematic of hope and resilience. People close to her and her family prayed and supported her healing. Many signaled a will to assist, reserving intervention, since Saida was not going to remain alone after the onslaught. Campaigns were held to raise necessary funds for medical bills and support for the family at this time of crisis. The love and compassion shared by the people of the community were evidence of the power and togetherness that can be found in times of woe. This also underscores the fact that violence can be surprising, and it bears noting the vigilance of the general public. It was clear to anyone who views the actions of Gary Lansky that his should be condemned, but it was rather the attitude of the community, as well as the swift actions of bystanders, that helped avert a worse situation. As the investigations get further, several anticipate that more provisions as to mental health will be in place after the fight. So this will be allowed to happen in more public places. Mani's consternation is not such that the tale of Saida Mashra, as her courage in such vile adversity spurs others to call for action and support the society, would not be drowned. This attack and its aftermath have once more shown and proved the significance of public safety, mental health care, and the community's involvement. These dangers can and should be addressed so that society can strive to create a safer world for everybody, starting with the most defenseless, that is, children. Saida and her family are only at the beginning of their long road towards healing. Nevertheless, the unifying impact of the community provides a ray of optimism in a difficult circumstance. Welcome. Today we will delve into another tragic case of Helen Terry. The Helen Terry cold case is a tragic story that has haunted the Sacramento community for decades. Helen, a vibrant young woman with dreams and aspirations, was murdered in 1986, leaving behind a legacy of love and loss. Her case gained notoriety not just for its brutality, but also for the ripple effect it had on those who loved her. Despite ongoing efforts by law enforcement, her case remained unsolved for years, leading to numerous theories and speculation. Over time, hope for justice began to fade, but the memory of Helen Terry continued to inspire her family and friends to seek answers. The resilience of those who knew her reminds us that every victim deserves justice, and every story deserves to be told. As they push for closure, they illuminate the broader issues surrounding domestic violence, serving as a voice for many who remain unheard. Background of Helen Terry. Helen Terry was born and raised in Sacramento, California, where she developed strong ties to her community. Known for her warm personality and strong spirit, she was a beloved member of her neighborhood, participating in local events and fostering friendships that lasted a lifetime. Her laughter was infectious, and her kindness knew no bounds, as she often volunteered her time to help others in need. Tragically, her life was cut short when she became a victim of domestic violence. At just 26 years old, Helen's dreams were shattered, leaving her family and friends devastated and grappling with the reality of her absence. As a devoted mother of 2 young children, her loss was felt profoundly, highlighting the severe impact of violence, not just on individuals, but on entire families and communities. Her children were left without a mother, forced to navigate life without her guidance and love, while her extended family was left grappling with grief and unanswered questions. Helen's story transcends personal tragedy, serving as a poignant reflection of the broader societal issues surrounding domestic abuse. It urges communities to engage in meaningful conversations about prevention, support, and the urgent need for protective measures for those in vulnerable situations. Details of the crime. Helen's body was discovered in her home in the summer of 1986, bearing the signs of a brutal murder that shocked those who knew her and sent ripples of fear through the community. Authorities quickly identified her death as a homicide, igniting a complex investigation that would span decades and capture the attention of both local and national media. The details of the crime were harrowing, with investigators revealing evidence of a violent struggle, including signs of forced entry and defensive wounds on Helen's body. Despite initial leads and interviews with friends and family, the case quickly went cold as the evidence proved elusive and suspects remained unaccounted for. The circumstances surrounding her murder raised troubling questions about her personal life, prompting investigators to delve into her relationships and potential motives for her death, including the possibility of domestic violence. Many community members were left feeling unsettled, as the brutal nature of the crime made them question their own safety and the safety of their loved ones. The case became a focal point in discussions about domestic violence, emphasizing the urgent need for awareness, prevention measures, and support systems in society to protect vulnerable individuals and promote healthy relationships. Investigation challenges. The investigation into Helen Terry's murder faced numerous significant challenges that severely hindered progress. One of the main issues was the lack of physical evidence, which is often crucial in solving homicide cases. Without any tangible leads, detectives were left to rely on witness statements, but they encountered difficulties in gaining cooperation from potential witnesses. Many individuals were reluctant to come forward, fearing potential repercussions or simply wishing to avoid involvement in the case. As detectives combed through various leads, they meticulously interviewed neighbors and canvassed the area for any potential information that could lead to a breakthrough in the investigation. As time passed, key witnesses began to fade from memory, and the trail grew increasingly cold, making it more challenging to identify any suspects. Law enforcement struggled to piece together the puzzle of Helen's tragic murder, which became a haunting reminder of the inherent limitations faced in solving violent crimes. Despite these hurdles, investigators remained dedicated to finding justice for Helen and her grieving family, emphasizing the pressing need for continuous training and adequate resources in homicide investigations. This ongoing struggle highlighted the necessity for law enforcement agencies to adapt their strategies to meet the evolving nature of crime. The prolonged nature of the investigation also took an emotional toll on Helen's family, who yearned for answers and closure while grappling with the painful reality of an unresolved tragedy. Advancements in forensic technology. In recent years, significant advancements in forensic technology have reignited hope in solving the Helen Terry case, which has remained unsolved for years. With the advent of DNA analysis and other modern investigative techniques, law enforcement agencies are now able to revisit cold cases with a renewed perspective and fresh eyes. These forensic advancements have proven invaluable, enabling investigators to analyze old evidence and uncover new insights that were previously inaccessible. As new evidence emerges, the possibility of solving this cold case becomes increasingly tangible. Techniques such as familial DNA searching and advanced blood spatter analysis have opened new avenues for exploring potential suspects. Familial DNA searching, for instance, allows investigators to identify close relatives of a suspect, expanding the pool of individuals for consideration. This method has successfully led to breakthroughs in other cold cases, demonstrating its effectiveness. These advancements highlight the critical importance of ongoing research and investment in forensic science to ensure that justice can be served, regardless of how much time has passed since the crime occurred. As new technologies continue to emerge, the lessons learned from Helen's case can serve as a valuable template for similar investigations, reinforcing the need for collaboration between law enforcement agencies and forensic experts. The renewed interest in her case not only brings hope to her family, who have long sought closure, but it also serves as a beacon for other unsolved cases that are still seeking resolution, reminding us that justice is always worth pursuing. Community response and support initiatives. The murder of Helen Terry sent shockwaves through Sacramento, igniting a widespread outcry for justice and raising awareness about domestic violence. In the wake of her tragic death, various organizations mobilized to support Helen's family, advocating for essential resources and assistance for victims of domestic abuse. Local advocacy groups launched impactful campaigns to educate the public on recognizing warning signs of domestic violence and providing necessary support to those facing similar situations. This collective response acted as a vital lifeline for many affected by domestic violence, creating a network of support that aimed to empower victims to seek help and escape abusive relationships. The ongoing efforts to combat domestic abuse emphasize the importance of community involvement in raising awareness and facilitating meaningful change. Events such as vigils and fundraising initiatives not only honor Helen's memory but also strive to create a safer environment for all individuals. As Helen's case receives renewed attention, the community's supportive initiatives, serve as a powerful reminder of the shared responsibility to advocate for victims and work towards preventing future tragedies. Lessons learned and future implications. The Helen Terry case, marked by its tragic outcome and the decades-long pursuit of justice, provides vital lessons for law enforcement, policymakers, and society as a whole. This case emphasizes the critical need for maintaining open channels of communication and fostering collaboration between law enforcement agencies and communities to effectively address cold cases. It serves as a poignant reminder that justice involves not only solving crimes, but also understanding the systemic issues that enable such crimes to persist in the shadows. The advancements in forensic science underscore the significance of ongoing investment in technology and training, which can open up new avenues for solving cases that once seemed unsolvable. Moreover, the Helen Terry case has sparked essential conversations about the need to comprehensively address domestic violence. It urges lawmakers to implement stricter measures aimed at protecting victims and holding perpetrators accountable for their actions. As the judicial proceedings unfold, they will set a benchmark for future cases, influencing investigative techniques and practices. This highlights the necessity for continual advocacy and support for victims, ensuring they have the resources and assistance they need to seek justice. Ultimately, the lessons learned from Helen's story will resonate deeply with many, shaping future approaches to ensure justice is served for all victims of violent crimes and helping create a society that prioritizes safety and accountability. Conclusion. The pursuit of justice for Helen Terry. As the search for justice continues, the memory of Helen Terry serves as a poignant reminder of the critical need to address domestic violence and support victims. While her case remains unsolved, the unwavering dedication of her family, friends, and the broader community keeps her memory alive. The ongoing investigation, coupled with advancements in forensic science, provides a glimmer of hope for resolution. As the community stands united, they honor Helen's legacy by advocating for meaningful change and striving for a future where such tragedies do not occur. The pursuit of justice for Helen Terry transcends the quest for answers. It embodies a commitment to protecting and uplifting those affected by violence, ensuring that no one else has to endure the heartache of losing a loved one to such senseless acts. Additionally, as discussions surrounding her case gain momentum, they inspire individuals to engage in critical conversations about domestic violence and challenge societal norms that perpetuate abuse. Ultimately, Helen's story exemplifies the need for continued advocacy and community support, reinforcing the importance of creating safe environments for all individuals and ensuring that the fight for justice endures. Her memory stands as a source of strength for many, reminding them that every voice matters in the quest for change. Thank you for joining us in our deep dive into the tragic case of Helen Terry and the ongoing pursuit of justice. Her story serves as a powerful reminder of the importance of addressing domestic violence and supporting victims in our communities. We invite you to share your thoughts and reflections in the comments below. If you found this video meaningful, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on more important stories like this. Together, we can keep the conversation going and work towards a future where everyone feels safe and supported. See you in the next video. Welcome to the story of Katie Kenyon. Imagine a serene Friday morning, a woman getting into a silver transit van in Burnley, and then she vanishes without a trace. This is the chilling case of Katie Kenyon, a mother of two, whose disappearance led to a murder investigation that gripped the nation. Today, we dive deep into the mysterious and tragic events surrounding her fate. Katie Kenyon, a 33-year-old mother of two, was last seen on the morning of Friday, April 22nd, 2022. Witnesses spotted a woman matching her description getting into a silver transit van with a man in Burnley. This ordinary scene soon unraveled into a nightmare when Katie seemingly disappeared without a trace. Her family grew increasingly worried. Texts allegedly sent by Katie to her family didn't sound like her. Typos, odd grammar, and unusual phrases. The police were called in, and they began their investigation by questioning Andrew Burfield, a man known to Katie. When detectives first approached Burfield, he seemed composed and even cooperative. He claimed he had no idea where Katie was and presented a text message he had allegedly received from her, stating she was out on a walk. He even went so far as to say that she had left her car keys and posted them through his door. His demeanor was calm, almost too calm for someone whose loved one was missing, but inconsistencies in his story began to surface almost immediately. Burfield claimed that Katie had gone on a walk and that he wasn't concerned about her sudden disappearance. Yet, he didn't report her missing. Why? When questioned by the police, Burfield stumbled over his words, offering vague answers. His alibi was shaky, and he couldn't provide any convincing evidence that he hadn't seen Katie. The police were now faced with a crucial question. Was Burfield hiding something sinister, or was he genuinely in the dark about Katie's fate? With Katie still missing, the police launched an enormous search operation. They employed helicopters, heat-sensing cameras, cadaver dogs, and ground search teams, combing through a vast area around Gisborne Forest. This wasn't just a missing persons case anymore. The authorities were growing increasingly certain that they were dealing with foul play. The investigation became more urgent when evidence began pointing to Burfield's involvement. ANPR, automatic number plate recognition data, showed that Katie's phone traveled toward Gisborne Forest in Burfield's vehicle on the day she disappeared. However, when the van returned, Katie was no longer in it, just her phone. The question now shifted from, "Where is Katie?" to, "What has happened to Katie?" During the search, a breakthrough occurred when a witness came forward, stating they had seen a silver van parked near one of the search areas. Meanwhile, investigators dug deeper into Burfield's life, including his recent activities as a builder. One particular interaction raised red flags. On Saturday, April 23rd, Burfield arrived unusually early at a client's house, asking an odd question about when the bins would be collected. This unusual query prompted the homeowners to check their bin, where they found something deeply disturbing: bags filled with blood-stained items, including trainers that matched Katie's. These bags were quickly sent for forensic testing. While investigators were piecing together the evidence, Burfield was brought in for urgent interviews. Despite the mounting pressure, he continued to maintain his innocence, repeating the same story: that Katie had left to sort herself out, and that he hadn't seen her since. But the evidence told a different story. The bloodstained bags were soon identified as belonging to Katie, confirming the police's worst fears. Katie Kenyon had met with foul play. The case was no longer about finding a missing person. It was about catching a killer. As the police continued their investigation, the evidence against Burfield became insurmountable. Faced with overwhelming proof, Burfield eventually confessed, admitting that Katie had died in Gisborne Forest. He claimed it was an accident, but forensic evidence painted a darker picture. Katie had been brutally attacked, and Burfield had gone to great lengths to cover his tracks, from sending fake messages to dumping her body in the forest. Katie's body was eventually recovered, giving her family some sense of closure, though the pain of their loss could never be truly healed. Burfield was arrested and charged with her murder. In court, his defense fell apart as the prosecution laid out the meticulous planning he had undertaken to hide his crime. Burfield's actions shocked everyone who knew him. He had played a disturbing game of deception, even giving Katie money under the pretense of helping her get into rehab, only to end her life. In the end, justice was served when Burfield was convicted of Katie Kenyon's murder and sentenced to life in prison. The tragic case of Katie Kenyon serves as a stark reminder of how dangerous manipulation and deceit can be. It's a story that underscores the importance of vigilance and justice, ensuring that victims like Katie are never forgotten. If you want to see more content about true crime cases like this one, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. In October 2020, a horrifying crime shocked the small town of New Boston, Texas. A woman named Taylor Renee Parker carried out a brutal and unimaginable act of violence against 21-year-old Reagan Hancock. This disturbing case involved murder, deception, and the tragic loss of not only Reagan, but also her unborn child. The case began when Taylor Parker, desperate to maintain a series of lies about her own life, made a plan to steal Reagan's baby. Parker had told her boyfriend and others she was pregnant, even going to great lengths to fake her pregnancy. She posted pictures online, wore fake pregnancy bellies, and shared ultrasound images that weren't hers. As the weeks passed, she found herself running out of time and unable to keep up the lie. Her relationship with her boyfriend depended on the belief that she was expecting a baby, and Parker was determined to maintain that deception at all costs. Reagan Hancock was someone Parker knew through social media. Reagan was happily married and expecting her second child, a baby girl she had already named Braxlyn Sage. Reagan, excited about the new addition to her family, was 7.5 months pregnant when Parker came into her life in a more sinister way. Reagan had no idea that Parker, who had been following her online, was plotting something unthinkable. On October 9, 2020, Taylor Parker went to Reagan's home in New Boston with a terrifying plan. Parker attacked Reagan, hitting her in the head multiple times. The blows were so violent that they caused fatal injuries. But the violence didn't stop there. Parker then took a scalpel and cut Reagan's baby from her womb. Reagan, helpless and bleeding, tragically died from the brutal assault. The baby Braxlyn was taken from her mother's body by Parker, who planned to claim the child as her own. After committing the crime, Parker fled the scene with the baby, leaving Reagan dead in her home. Parker was determined to make her boyfriend believe that she had just given birth. She drove away, with the baby in her car, and tried to convince police officers who later stopped her that she had just delivered the baby herself. However, the baby, like Reagan, did not survive the violent act. The officers quickly realized something was wrong when they saw the condition of the newborn and took Parker into custody. Meanwhile, Reagan's family made the horrifying discovery of her body. Reagan's mother was the one who found her daughter lying in a pool of blood in her home. The shock and grief were unimaginable as they learned what had happened to both Reagan and her unborn child. The town of New Boston, a close-knit community, was left in disbelief that such a horrific crime could happen to one of their own. Parker was arrested and charged with capital murder and kidnapping. During the investigation, it became clear that Parker's motive was rooted in her lies about being pregnant. She had been desperate to convince her boyfriend and others that she was expecting, but as her supposed due date approached, her desperation turned into deadly action. Prosecutors painted a chilling picture of a woman willing to go to any lengths, including killing, to keep up her facade. The trial that followed brought forth many disturbing details. Parker's elaborate efforts to fake her pregnancy, including the use of social media, ultrasound photos, and even attending a gender reveal party, shocked everyone. Her lies had spun so far out of control that murder became her only way out of the corner she had backed herself into. In 2022, Parker was found guilty of the brutal murder of Reagan Hancock and the kidnapping that led to the death of Reagan's baby. The jury did not take long to convict her after hearing the overwhelming evidence against her. For her horrific actions, Parker was sentenced to death. The sentence brought some sense of justice to Reagan's grieving family, though nothing could ever truly heal the deep wounds left by this tragedy. Reagan Hancock's life was cruelly cut short, and her unborn child never had a chance to live. The case is a heartbreaking reminder of the darkness that can sometimes hide behind seemingly normal lives. Parker's actions were driven by selfishness, lies, and desperation, and the community of New Boston will never forget the tragedy that claimed the lives of Reagan and her baby, Braxlyn. Today, Reagan's family continues to remember her as a loving wife, mother, and daughter. While justice was served, the loss of 2 innocent lives is a wound that will never fully heal. This case serves as a grim reminder of how deception and desperation can lead to unthinkable acts of violence.